Hondas, generally speaking, are pretty reliable vehicles. So it's a pretty unfortunate situation that both mine are broken. Now, the Goldwing you saw in a previous episode is having a critical carburation issue. The carbs are over here on my desk for cleaning and a rebuild, but the inside, it's let me down finally. The clutch isn't doing anything. I think that the problem is there. The clutch slave cylinder. And I ordered a new one, and it took absolutely ages to get here. I was really hoping that Honda cribbed apart from the Civic. Unfortunately, this is a Insight specific thing, and it took like 2.5 weeks to get here from Rock Auto. So the problem that we're having is that the clutch pedal just goes straight to the floor and does not actually move the clutch at all. And you can see there's a little bit of dampness there on the rubber boot that goes over the clutch slave cylinder, and it was all out of fluid. So I think it just leaked all of its fluid out through the clutch slave. Nothing seems to be coming out of the clutch master, so just gonna throw a new one on here. And here to help me actually repair this, though you can tell I've already taken a few parts off, it's 100% wife.
Okay, so the clutch slave is way down there, and it looks like first, in order to get a better idea of what we're doing here, I'm gonna have to take this cover off of the throttle. I'm not entirely sure what these hoses are. Yep, still not sure what those hoses are, but they might just move out of the way, but that's gonna be an annoyance for sure. This car isn't exactly packaged for ease of repair. Well, that plastic piece actually was hiding a lot more than I thought. It's very clear where everything is now. You've got the 1 and 2 bolts holding that clutch slave on. I don't think there's another one. And there is a leader screw right there. Actually, I can tell exactly how many there are because I can just take a look at the new part. Centric parts. It's not working at all. John Ross style, here we go. Really? There it is. With its little floppy dingus. So yeah, just 2 bolts holding it on. And that's where the fitting goes. And that is the bleeder. So we're going to be taking off. See those 2 bolts right in there? Yeah, just take those both out. So this is the part that gets kind of annoying because this is the part where you need this little guy. This is a flare nut wrench. It is very important to use an actual flare nut wrench on this. This is a 10mm. Those other bolts holding on the slave cylinder were 14s. The cover was a 10. This 10mm flare nut is going to be used to take the hydraulic line off of the slave cylinder. Literally every instance where someone did not use this that I could find on the internet, they tried to just use a regular open-ended wrench. They stripped the fitting, and that's a bad time, so definitely make sure you've got the right tool for this job. Okay, so actually those bolts weren't supposed to come out just yet. It needs to be bolted to the block still so I can get enough torque to break loose the flare nut fitting. It is definitely leaking though. When I grabbed the boot on the clutch slave, it exploded nasty clutch fluid all over me like an overripe grape. So that thing was definitely toast. So that's pretty much a smoking gun right there. Let me get this bolted back up to the block and then I can break that loose. This is actually fairly miserable. I've got to kind of come up at it from the bottom after I broke it loose with a flare nut wrench. And then I go in there with a box end wrench or an open-ended wrench just so that I can, run it out. I don't know how I'm going to get this thing back in here, but not exactly a wonderfully easy to work on design. Ew! That's gross. That one is much shinier. Okay, so I've got my nice shiny wobbly dingus here. I can take that out. And there's a thing that you want to do called bench bleeding these, and I think what that amounts to is pushing the plunger and then just sucking some fluid up like a syringe. Let's see if I can manage to accomplish that without hurting myself. So I'm just going to pour a little bit in here. Yep, sure. Only got all of it on the floor. Probably a good time to point out that brake fluid is extremely bad for paint. Probably shouldn't get it on your floor either. Stick my dust cap over our new guy here and slip this back into place somehow. There is a lot of stuff under there, including a clutch line that is dripping profusely out of the end that I took off. Every available option here is bad. As you can see how much I've got to move it to get those bolt holes lined up. I've got the boot on, sort of. It's sort of sitting in there. I just kind of felt through the boot, or that dust cover, in order to feel when the ball was seated in the doobly-doo, in the arm, or put some grease on there so that it won't squeak or anything, and yeah, it should be good to go. So let's just get that the rest of the way on there. With slave cylinder changes, as well as with math, it's important to consider your order of operations. Before you go slamming that thing back in there, put it on the hard line first, because it is virtually impossible to get that hard line fitted to the clutch slave cylinder with it bolted in place. So you gotta pop the line out of its retainers, and I wish I could show you this, but it's so cramped in here that the camera just won't focus on the relevant things. Just pop it out and pull that hard line, out into this area of the engine bay that's a bit, more open, and then just screw it down there, get it hand tight, and then wriggle it back into place, bolt it down, and now I've got to tighten that flare nut down to whatever my hand can manage. It was absurdly tight, like full on pulling with my body weight to get it undone, so I assume that it's a sort of you can't get it too tight by hand thing. Let's get that guy in there, and then we shall proceed to bleed. All right, that is all together, and now you can see I've got a wrench on there ready to bleed this clutch. So if you go ahead and get in the car, we can get that done. And of course, we're gonna want to fill that up. Ew, there's like sludge in the bottom of that. Let's mop that sludge out of there first. That is disgusting. Oh. Let's get that filled up with some fresh dot 4, and then commence a bleeding. Okay, that does feel like a clutch again. So let's put this guy in neutral and give it a start. Did I unhook something?
And I think the battery might just be dead.
Okay, the insight's been sitting on the charger overnight. It says it's charged, so let's go ahead and just take these off of here, set that on the ground, just unplug it so that it doesn't short out or anything like that, anything silly, and let's go see what we've got. Hey, that's a good sound. Hey, does it go into first? It does. All right, let's leave that handbrake engage. All right, that's engaging really well right at the bottom of its travel. And reverse. The same thing. All right, that is a good clutch. Actually, the clutch has never felt that good before. Looks like it's got to reset its IMA. I'm actually gonna just kill it now. We'll let that idle a bit once we get it outside, but right now I gotta put that engine bay back together, so let's give that a shot, and then we can get this thing out of the garage and have one fixed Honda. The other Honda is not faring quite so well. The carb kit got here for it today, so hopefully I can get this thing put back together this weekend, which would be great, but for now I've got this mess to contend with, and hopefully my wife can start daily driving the 50 mile per gallon hybrid again instead of the 23 mile per gallon BMW. That'd be nice.
And that's it then. That is the plucky little hybrid taken care of. This thing just refuses to go down for the count. It just keeps bouncing back. I'll just leave it there to charge up for a little bit, and yeah, I think it's good to go. What a car. Thanks for watching.